we have to discuss the shit show, walking disaster that was the Iowa caucus, Iowa Democratic caucus, because the Republican caucus went off without a hitch, no issues. Donald Trump, rightfully so, in perfect position to make the point, comes out and attacks the Democrats. That basically makes the very basic point that these guys want to run your healthcare system. They can't even run a primary. Why would you ever trust these guys to run your healthcare system? This was atrocious. Now, you look at that tweet, and what you're going to say? What are you going to say? He's lying? How are you going to say he's lying? They had one job. One job. That's it. One job. A 4-year-old could have did it. Okay, this is 23. This is 24. This is 25. Let's send 25 back to the main center to be counted. But you didn't do that. They chose to insert a device that was entirely unnecessary into the process. Again, just because you have a technological solution doesn't necessarily mean the solution was necessary, meaning you might not have had a problem at all. But you've inserted a solution. All right, fair enough. An application called Shadow. That's not intimidating at all. Typically with elections, you want transparency, but in this case, this thing is in the shadows. Okay, fair enough. It's full of people made working with Hillary Clinton, meaning it's full of Clintonites. It's full of people that hate Bernie Sanders' guts. Well, that's one black market gets it for me. And then it goes further than that, and you find out that Pete Buttigieg had put money, his campaign had gave money to this place, to this company. Pete Buttigieg's campaign paid firm that developed the voting app blamed for Iowa caucus delays. Right here. Right here. Disbursements, FEC. Now, Buttigieg makes the point and says, well, wait a minute. He says they paid Shadow for text messaging services to help us contact voters. Okay. But why should I believe that? Why should I give you the benefit of the doubt? Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Pete Buttigieg was at a meeting trying to figure out how to stop Sanders. Just like all of these other Democrats with their puckered asses and red cheeks trying to figure out how to stop this one guy. Now, if I'm one of the people in the Sanders camp, and I know what happened in 2016, why will I accept this as valid? Meaning, why would I not have qualms with this? You have a fiduciary relationship with a company that created a voting app. Meaning, one of the campaigns has a fiduciary relationship with the company that created the voting app. You can say it's innocent. I don't know why I should accept that. I hope you understand what I mean. The entirety of all of this was supposed to be for the purposes of transparency. That was the entire point. The entire Iowa caucus, meaning the back and forth between the Sanders campaign and the Iowa and all the other stuff in order to come up with a process that they deem to be fair. So Sanders and his people can accept it as fair. This was a fair and honest process. They fucked it up. If your name is Joe Biden and you're coming in fourth, do you accept this? How do you accept this as being legit? That's my point. That's the thing that I'm getting at. The company is trying to say that, look, the data that we collected was entirely accurate. Nothing wrong with that. But when we were sending the information, they found inconsistencies. Now the catch becomes, what does that mean? Was it sending back incorrect voter totals? Meaning, did they input information and then the information was sent back wrong, depending upon the candidate? Like, I don't know what that means entirely. I know that when you add a piece of technology into something where it shouldn't be, that you create doubt. I mean, you don't believe me? Do you have doubts about whatever these numbers come out to be? Yes, they say they have a paper trail. Yes, they say all that stuff. But do you have doubts that this is legit, meaning Iowa? And if you do have doubts, you're not insane for having those doubts. It's more so that the situation itself created them. You shouldn't have a voting app that has people who are against the interests of one of the people in the race. You should not have a voting app where one of the candidates in the race has a fiduciary relationship with the company that created the voting app. And by the way, the person who created it, Pete Buttigieg supporter. Also, Buttigieg comes out and claims victory. We shocked the world. We shocked the world. And the wild part is like, how are you declaring victory? How do you know what the result is? They haven't released the results. But the catch here is each campaign had the various people at various polling locations. And because it was a caucus, the campaigns could count the numbers and record the numbers, meaning each campaign had their own internal data. It's clear that Buttigieg seemed to have had a good night. I believe Sanders won because Sanders has released his own polling numbers, his own internal data to get across. We're in the lead based on our internal polling data. And we don't even know if Sanders has more data than this. At 5 p.m., they're supposed to be releasing 50% of the data. Think about that. At 5 p.m., 50% of the data. Joe Biden has been bitching about this. Now, Joe Biden had his lawyers in order to stop them from putting out the information, meaning the totals. Now, Joe Biden did this for obvious reasons. Pete Buttigieg wants to scream into the roof. Bernie Sanders wants to scream into the roof. Joe Biden, hey, we need to slow down on releasing those totals. We need to slow down. We don't need those totals to go out. Why? Because it is widely suspected that Joe Biden is in a distant fourth. Yes, you heard that right, distant fourth. Before this, I made the point that said, look, Joe Biden, just because people think he might be able to beat Trump, that's a whole different thing about whether those people will stump for you. Energy, excitement matters. The ability for somebody to get you out of your seat and get you at a particular location matters. Joe Biden doesn't have that. He just has, I think he could beat Trump. That's it. The catch here is, if many of your supporters are like 65 and older, how are those 65-year-old people going to be at those things for like 6-7 hours at caucuses trying to convince people? They're not. It just so happens that having an older base of support at this particular caucus or at the caucus in general is a hindrance. Not to mention there is no energy behind Biden. Nobody cares about Biden in this way. Distant fourth. Elizabeth Warren even did better than Biden. And honestly, we don't even know if it's a distant fourth. Klobuchar was extremely close to Joe Biden and Sanders polling. And I'm going to show you his polling in a moment. Buttigieg claims victory. How does Buttigieg claim victory? How does he know? Why would you know? Now, Buttigieg is a professional bullshitter. So it could be that. This notion of trying to, get out in front. I mean, Buttigieg is the guy that said, I have 4 black, big name supporters. None of them supported him. One of them was a out in the daylight Bernie supporter. Then he says, I have all of these black supporters, 400 people. Half were white. And we don't know what the other part was because, it was like voter records and stuff like that, but they were using the voter record information in order to correlate who the person was. Half were white. Professional bullshitter. Pete Buttigieg. So it could just be that. Meaning, the problem here is doubt. The problem here is you've created a situation where it is impossible to know. And various perspectives based on the way they've experienced the world is going to come to various perspectives of this. And their perspectives are not necessarily wrong. Some are going to be more cynical than others. The problem is doubt. You've really fucked up the process in the sense of the caucus. And even if your numbers are sparkling, clean, absolutely right, we have no way to know. We have no way to know. Application called Shadow. It's astonishing. One of the other interesting tidbits on this that came out. So this is, let me see. All right. Right here. This is the statement. Last night, more than 1,600 precinct caucuses gathered across the state of Iowa, satellite caucuses around the world to demonstrate We had every indication that our systems were secure and that there was not a cyber threat, meaning no cyber threat, no attacks from the Russians. But, by the way, I've already seen that, despite them saying that. No attacks from the Russians that had nothing to do with the Russians. And then you have Democrats tweeting, the Russians are going to take advantage of this. No, you just fucked up. You just fucked up, own it. As precinct caucuses results start coming in, the IDP ran them through an accuracy and quality check. It became clear that there were inconsistencies with the reports. The underlying cause of these inconsistencies was not immediately clear and required investigation, which took time. As this investigation unfolded, IDP staff activated pre-planned backup measures, essentially paper ballots. As part of the investigation, we determined with certainty that the underlying data collected via the app was sound. While the app was recording data accurately, it was reporting out only partial data. What does that mean? What does that mean? Like, I hope you understand what I'm getting at here. Because the fact of the matter is, the fact that this was a caucus allowed this to be caught. Understand, with a caucus, you have other campaigns. These campaigns can watch. You're not going to have a huge amount of people at these various precincts. All right, they can send that data back to the campaign headquarters. But what about an election? And in many of these elections, there is no paper trail. There's none of that stuff. Or do people really pay attention to the paper trail? They make their vote and they go. Well, the moment that you have a machine like this, what if the machine is glitchy? What if the machine is fucking up? What if the machine has been manipulated? Any of those things. And it's giving back incorrect data. How would you know? You're not going to have minders that can actually pay attention to all of the stuff as it goes along. Ultimately, you might have somebody standing there to kind of look at the number of people coming in and everything else, maybe checking exit polls, but it's different from the standpoint of a caucus. Bernie Sanders, if any number was registered different than what his number was, he could scream to the hilt. But you can't do that in a regular general election. We need to get rid of these voting machines. Go back to paper ballots. I mean, for the moment, benefit of the doubt, think about what I'm saying. It is paramount, absolutely paramount, that the public believes that the elections are fair. It is one of the highest aspects of democracy that you must make sure that the public itself gets the vote, if indeed you are a democracy. I mean, Bloomberg is running from the standpoint of essentially buying the race. So, the whole democracy thing is being challenged. But I hope you get my point. But how can it be a democracy if you don't necessarily know who you voted for? Because you can't trust the electoral process. Paper ballots, paper ballots. You should have paper ballots. Even if it takes longer, so what? I don't care if it takes longer. I just want the right result. You should have minders, the public itself, that can watch you do as you tally up your results. Yes, it should be open to public scrutiny. The public should be able to watch you do what you do as you accrue those paper ballots. It should be an open process. It should be entirely and utterly transparent. Even if it takes a little bit longer, so what? The entire point is not speed. The entire point is to make sure that the result total is right. How do you know if the Iowa total is right in compared to the way I'm talking about elections? You don't. And that is the problem. This is Bernie Sanders' internal campaign, internal caucus numbers. Due to the failure of the Iowa Democratic Party to release the results tonight, and in the interest of full transparency, Bernie Sanders' 2020 advisor, Jeff Weaver, is releasing the campaign's internal reporting numbers, which represent the results from the early 40% of the precincts in Iowa. We recognize that this does not replace the full data from the Iowa Democratic Party, but we firmly believe that our supporters worked so hard, or too hard and too long, to have the results of their work delayed. He's right. But what that means is they know what the numbers are. Understand, that means that they know what the numbers are. Meaning, the DNC had those numbers held. Joe Biden essentially pushed to have those numbers delayed. Now, yeah, there might have been an issue with it, and they may be going through secondary quality checks or whatever the hell they're calling it. But it is very likely that they have the numbers, and they're just not putting those numbers out. And I'll tell you this, of all the campaigns that wanted those numbers out, it was Sanders and it was Buttigieg, not Biden. The data below was collected by trained Sanders volunteers at the representative precincts from our congressional districts from cross-sector of the urban and rural parts of the state. Now, let's see if I can blow this up. All right, that might be a little too much, but okay, here we are. All right. Let's do this. Klobuchar is at the top. Yang, Biden, Warren. All right, Sanders is in the middle. All right, that's... All right, so based on Sanders, 29%. I think this is Buttigieg. Either Buttigieg or Warren. All right, I think this is Buttigieg. I think this is Warren. 21%. Biden, 12%. That's not even qualifying for delegates. That is not even qualifying for delegates. And just so we're clear, Joe Biden, yeah, 12%. Look at Klobuchar, by the way. Klobuchar is at 11%, meaning this is just 40% of the vote total. This is not the totality of the votes. It is possible that Klobuchar catches Joe Biden. Can you imagine that shit taking place? Klobuchar getting to the point where she tackles Joe Biden. Now, if your name is Joe Biden and you get tackled by Klobuchar, what do you say? You come out and you say, I don't trust these results. I want these results thrown out. They need to expunge these from the record. I can't trust this. I can't trust this. You're going to have your lawyer arguing. I can't trust this. I mean, the system fucked up. How do I know that it's legit? And is there really anything that you can show him to prove him as a flat, fat reality that the results are what they are? And the answer, of course, is no. I suppose you can go with the paper trail, but even with the paper trail, is it a digital paper trail? Is it an actual paper trail, meaning when people kind of put the numbers up? My point is, how do you know, how do you guarantee that this result is what it's supposed to be? Either way, Sanders is putting out his numbers. And based on his numbers, with 40% counting, he's winning. And this is after the flipovers. But again, this is only 40%. We don't know the districts per se. At least I don't think we do. Meaning we don't know if there are strongholds for either Biden or Buttigieg or Warren or something to that effect. It is clear, though, that Buttigieg had a lot of support. But keep in mind, Buttigieg dumped a ton of emphasis on Iowa. More importantly, if you're a Bernie Sanders supporter, you should be happy that Buttigieg took Iowa in the second spot. Now, the reason why I say that is, and I think I said this before, if your name is Bernie Sanders, Warren and Biden are the two people running in the race that could potentially sap away your support and injure you to some degree. Buttigieg is going to flame out. Once Buttigieg gets out of New Hampshire, Buttigieg is toast. So Buttigieg is an empty space. He's a space filler of sorts. He's not a real candidate in the sense of this guy can go or has longevity. At least I don't think he is. I could be wrong. I don't think I am, but I could be. Because of that, if Warren doesn't take that spot, or if Biden doesn't take that spot is vitally important to Warren and to Biden, because both of them have aspirations of trying to win. Buttigieg, who may have aspirations of trying to win, is deluded, which means that if Buttigieg takes that spot, he just saps away that support from Warren and Biden. If your name is Bernie Sanders, yes. Now, yes, you would have preferred to blow it out. No, you didn't get the massive crowd that you wanted to get, but winning is an acceptable margin. And again, if Buttigieg is in the number 2 spot, those are delegates that Warren and Biden are not getting. And if you don't believe Buttigieg is going to be able to carry the burden throughout, fair enough. I don't believe it either. Meaning, an empty spot stole those points. And Warren and Biden is probably like, motherfucker, I could have used those points. You're not going to do anything with those points. All right, I'll end this here. It's just my update. And this is the team, the shadow team. Max Blumenthal wrote a really good article on this. Meet the shadow team. We are campaign and technology veterans who have built and implemented technology at Hillary for America, Obama for America, Google, Apple, AFL-CIO, and the DNC. Our passion is to create permanent advantage for progressive campaigns and causes through technology. Okay, you can't see that. There we are. Now again, this was entirely unnecessary. They paid a company a bunch of money for something that was entirely unnecessary. And instead of fighting the Russians and ensuring that the vote total was right, you really only had one job, and you got that job massively and completely wrong. Massively and completely wrong. Not to mention Buttigieg giving money to the campaign. All that stuff just stinks. It stinks. It completely stinks. Oh, wow. We have a lot of people here. Oh, democracy. There's an app for that. Yes, there's an app for that. Keble de Howe. Okay, market idea. Pokemon Go to the polls. I mean, you guys are joking, and I agree with you. What is the fiduciary relationship between the DNC and this company? Why on earth do you need a consultant for something that your people can just sit down and count? If the DNC is broke, why is it spending money on stupid fucking apps like this? I mean, all of these questions needs to be asked. When Nomika Kantz went ballistic, and what did she say? We spent $1 billion on 5 consultants. And she was flipping out because she was like, this stinks of corruption. Now you have a company that Buttigieg is giving money to that has essentially a fiduciary relationship for whatever reason he's giving money to. Buttigieg is never going to say, yes, we're giving money because we want to have some kind of influence. No, they would never say that. So it's somewhat of a moot point. But a company that he's giving money to, just on its face, people have qualms with that when they hear that, because there's a fiduciary relationship between the two, and it breeds a certain degree of corruption. The DNC gets it to build an app. Okay. The company is full of people from Clinton land who hate Sanders. Okay. And in being part of Clinton land that hates Sanders, the thing is giving out bad information. And again, the question becomes, what is that bad information? Considering what took place last time around, considering Tom Perez has taken DNC $270,000 or $325,000, and then let Bloomberg in the race after receiving that money, considering all the people that Tom Perez put on the platform staff, meaning Clintonites, even John Podesta, the person who was running Hillary Clinton's campaign. Considering all of this that's taken place, considering DNC operatives openly opining, maybe we should bring back superdelegates. Pelosi, Schumer, Buttigieg, and a host of other lobbyists. How do we stop Sanders? Puckered asses. Democrats, establishment. How do we stop Sanders? If my name is Bernie Sanders, goddammit, I'm paranoid. But it's not because, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean that people aren't trying to get you. Obi Alfred, the Yellow Vest America, has been permanently suspended on Twitter after calling for investigations into Pete Buttigieg and the Tom Perez resign. Stay vigilant. Wow. Think about that. Think about that. Twitter is suspending someone for saying you should investigate Tom Perez or Pete Buttigieg. Why should that get suspended? Even if you say, dude, I think that's a conspiracy theory. Why do you think that should get a suspension? When Elizabeth Warren is coming out screaming for tech companies to be prosecuted, this is what you're going to get. I mean, that's literally what you're going to get. The entire point of it is to chill the sector and allowing free speech and free ideas and people being able to talk. She and her Democratic Party hate the fact that she lost, and she wants to control what people even hear. Other opinions, other ideas. Do you know, in Germany, in World War II, the radio at that time was a disruptive technology. That disruptive technology essentially landed with a certain degree of a bomb. Now think of how internet information is that you digest. You see a meme when it first comes out, it's true because somebody wrote it. And it takes you a while to acclimate yourself to this new environment of, okay, people write shit all the time, that's not true. Well, when the radio came out, there will be somebody who's talking to you, maybe somebody who's singing to you, and they're giving you a heavy dose of propaganda. And many accept it. Now, when some people in Germany didn't necessarily buy the propaganda that the Nazis were pulling because they thought, okay, these guys are fucking lying. They're not telling us the whole story. So they could use the radio to also listen to the BBC. Goebbels got to the point of saying, all right, we need to criminalize listening to other sources of information. We can't have this challenging, competing narrative because, we can't have these ideas infecting our particular society. The Brits, for the BBC, was just being honest for the most part, even though they were putting their own propaganda out. Don't misunderstand me, but they were getting, at the very least, another perspective, as opposed to just the propaganda they were getting from Hitler and the Nazis. They were criminalizing people for that. They were putting people in prison. They were trying to get 10 years, 20 years for people listening to any other source of information. You had situations where people would tell, like, look, I heard on the BBC that they captured your kid or your boy who's fighting the war, and I just want you to know he's safe. And that person would get arrested for saying that because that person listened to other sources of information. So what they started to do was like, I had a dream that your boy was safe in Britain. Well, I can't convict you for having a dream. I mean, you just had a dream about that. You didn't hear any other source of information. They had to do shit like that. There was a guy who was going around putting down notes, essentially saying, this person was safe for that person because he was listed at BBC. He eventually got caught and prosecuted, and I forget how long he got for that. Goebbels was put off by it because he realized the judges weren't giving 10, 20-year sentences, so he can't get the propaganda value out of it. Meaning he wanted the people to be in prison for like decades, so he can say, if you do this, this is going to happen to you. Is Warren doing something that much different? I mean, think about what I'm saying for the moment. I'm not calling her Nazi. That's not where I'm going with this. I'm just making the point of this authoritarian. I don't want you to hear other sources of competing information because it adversely affects my political ambitions. That's all that is. This disinformation stuff. What does she mean by disinformation? What's disinformation? Her being a Native American? Yes, that is disinformation. That's totally disinformation. What does she mean by disinformation? Does she mean her kids going to public school? Yes, that's entirely disinformation. Her supporting Medicare for all? Entirely disinformation. But nobody's going to prosecute her for that. The fact of the matter is the media can get out and lie about Trump and Russia for 3 years. Again, nobody's going to say squat about that. All of this is leveled against social media and independent media. This channel, channels on Twitter that are putting out information, that's what that's leveled at. And effectively putting a chill on that information being released. Elizabeth Warren is dangerous. She's not just dishonest. She's dangerous. Abu Qura, thank you, man. I appreciate it. McCoy Williams Jr. McCoy Thomas. It was my grandfather. Oh, the look on Pete's face when he comes in second here and don't know where else he can support beyond white people. It warms my heart. It does. Look, that's why I say Buttigieg has no chance. And by the way, when Buttigieg comes in second, the media needs to be scathing. He comes out and gives a victory speech. I won! We shocked the world! Like he's Muhammad Ali or something. No, dude, you didn't shock anything. You came in second place. And when you get to South Carolina, you are going to get embarrassed. When you go to Georgia, you are going to get embarrassed. When you go to a state that has at least 4% black population, it is going to hurt. It's going to hurt. So enjoy Iowa in second place, because this is the best you're ever going to get in this election term. Again, I could be wrong. I don't, this is not the word of God. But if you can't win a Democratic primary with 2% of the black vote, you just can't. And I don't care how much publicity they heap behind him. It's not going to work. If anything, my concern, believe it or not, is Bloomberg. Bloomberg is my concern. I think I've been saying this for at least a couple of weeks. Bloomberg has billions of dollars. He's been able to garner 10% support just by spending money. Now, up to this point, he hasn't been challenged. Nobody has hit him. And my argument would be you need to start hitting him. And you need to start casting him as this plutocrat trying to buy the election. I wasn't going to do this video now, but Nina Turner started this. She starts it. Listen to what she says on Chris Matthews when she's talking to Chris Matthews.
We should be ashamed of that as Americans, people who believe in democracy, that the oligarchs, if you have more money, you can buy your way. Now, but to your point.
You think Mike Bloomberg's an oligarch? Come on.
He is. I mean, he's not, he skipped Iowa. Iowans should be insulted, not going to New Hampshire, buying his way into this race, period. The DNC changed its rules. They didn't change it for Senator Harris. They wouldn't change it for Senator Booker. They didn't change it for Secretary Castro. They changed it.
Did he buy his way into the debate?
Yeah, you work for a candidate.
Yes. The answer is yes. Implacably yes. As a flat fact, as if God himself was given the answer, yes. Bloomberg gave the DNC $325,000. Don't take my word for it. I mean, at this point, that's one of those just things that are known. Does Chris Matthews not know? Bloomberg, 6,000, whatever that is, $325,000. And then he gets into the debate. Up to this point, they had said it is impossible to change the rules. They were willing to change it after they got that donation. And my argument here, and the reason why I think I'm credible on this, or maybe credible is the wrong word, why I think I'm accurate on this. The DNC is broke. Joe Biden is broke. the Republican Party is going to be flush with cash, hundreds of thousands of dollars. They were outpacing the Democrats in spades. Donald Trump is raising gobs of money, small donations, most of them. So there's going to be a juggernaut of cash supporting Donald Trump this time around as he runs in the race. And he's going to have the bully pulpit of the presidency behind him as well. Now, if you're the DNC, Joe Biden has just flamed out. He was your guy. Joe Biden couldn't carry the burden. If he ends up in 4th and, oh my God, 5th in Iowa, he's toast. He's never going to get any more money because he's going to go into New Hampshire where Bernie Sanders right now has like a 20-point lead. So his best bet then is going to be Nevada. If Sanders puts a knife in him in Nevada, or anybody else, even hell, Warren, he's done. He's going to pack it up. He's going to call it a day. There is no Joe Biden at that point. So the catch becomes, if all of these people in the Democratic Party want to stop Sanders, who's going to carry the burden? Now, is it going to be Buttigieg, who's getting 2% black support? No, it's not. It's not going to be that at all. And believe it or not, many of the people who will be supporting Biden will go to Sanders. Now, the catch here is, would they go to another candidate that they think is credible, that is not Joe Biden? Meaning the African Americans, if Joe Biden leaves, who do those people go to? I would say they would go to Sanders. But some may go to Bloomberg if they think Bloomberg, as a billionaire, may be able to win. Again, the black vote is not entirely monolithic. At some point, it becomes monolithic when it lumps behind a particular candidate. But in this very specific case, who keeps the monsters at bay? Sanders is going to get a share of those voters, and Bloomberg may get a share of those voters. The reason I think Bloomberg is because if Bloomberg is in the race while Joe Biden is in the race, they're going to be splitting votes. There's nobody that is going to go from Sanders to Bloomberg. Zero. In fact, the Sanders camp is going to be probably the most hostile and antagonistic to the Bloomberg camp. So in that very specific instance, I'm just making the point that these two being in the race together suck away votes from one another. Bloomberg is giving Joe Biden up until, I suppose, Nevada, South Carolina, or something like that, in order to prove his point. Not South Carolina, Nevada. If he can't carry the load, Bloomberg is getting into the race. My concern is, I don't know who else other than Bloomberg holds that spotlight. He's spending $250 million. He could easily drop $1 billion into the primary. Up to this point, he hasn't taken a punch yet. So, there's that. But he's been able to essentially cast an image around himself, talking about these ancillary issues, while not being a part of the actual campaign. Now, Nina Turner makes the point, this guy's an oligarch in real terms. Chris Matthews, I would imagine, would use the term Russian oligarch. Okay, if you're willing to use the term Russian oligarch, what is the level of wealth that you believe is necessary to be called an oligarch? And if a Russian can be an oligarch, can an American also be an oligarch? Now, understand why I'm asking this question, because it's somewhat racist on its face to make this notion that your DNA allows you to be an oligarch. And American DNA, for whatever reason, does not. Fucking nonsense. If the definition fits, it fits. Bloomberg is richer than pretty much anybody else in Russia, like 2 times over. And so if you're going to call anybody in Russia an oligarch, you have to call Bloomberg an oligarch. Like, I don't know how this doesn't work. Bloomberg has been given all sorts of money through all of these charities, nonprofits, and everything else. And those charities and nonprofits endorse Bloomberg. Not just that, even the nomination thing. Like I said, all the money gave to Tom Perez for the DNC, all the money he's been dropping into the races, all the money he's been pushing around so he can get various endorsements and support. If that's not an oligarch, I don't know what is. If Bloomberg had $1,000 to his name and was driving an Uber, he would not be in this race. Nobody is clamoring for Bloomberg. Bloomberg just jumped into the race and is using his money to effectively buy the election. If that is not an oligarch, I got to be honest, I have no idea what is. Here, to protect the oligarchs, throw his body on the line for the oligarchs. MSNBC. Let's hear him.
Candidate who's part of the 1%. I have no problem with criticizing the system. The system that allows Mike Bloomberg to make all the money that he makes, the system that allows him to buy what he wants to buy, the system that allows him to buy himself into the administration and buy himself into the debates is a problem. But to call him an oligarch, I think, is a misnomer in this environment. And again, you're working for somebody who's part of the 1%.
Now, this is always the stupidest argument to me. And it's fitting that this guy makes it. Look at his face. I love his face. It's fitting that he makes it. This guy is typically just wrong. I'm going to show you a video that he did earlier. He makes a prediction. And I don't know how he keeps his job making predictions like that. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. If you and I are having an argument and I am shucking for Bernie Sanders, and you tell me in a conversation about oligarchs that Bernie Sanders is part of the 1% because he has $4 million, I'm going to say, A, you're being disingenuous, and B, this comparison between a guy with $4 million and $50 billion doesn't work. It doesn't work. Also, just because you're part of the 1% doesn't mean you can't make the arguments within the context of that. I don't know. FDR was part of the 1%. He was part of the wealthy class. That didn't stop him from making those arguments. Why do you believe that just because somebody has $4 million that they can't argue for the poor, especially if they grew up poor? It digs in them. They care about other people because they felt that particular pain. So yeah, they're going to argue from that standpoint. What he's saying is not a suitable argument. You need to explain to me why somebody with $50 billion is not an oligarch. Meaning, what is your definition of oligarch? Let's start there. And explain to me, dance between the raindrops, and explaining how Bloomberg doesn't fit that definition. Nina Turner, and I'm going to let her close this. And I'll end the video here. I have a few super chats, but I'm going to end it here. Look at, I want you to see Nina Turner's response to this. Her response is awesome. She's, all right here.
Can totally finance his campaign. He doesn't have to go out to the people. He doesn't have to build a movement. He doesn't have to talk to people. He can buy his way. It is the same attitude that the elites, maybe Jason likes the word elite over oligarch, but it's the same attitude that the elites had in 1930 against FDR. All of them lined up against him, and he said, I welcome your hatred, because he was standing up for the people. And that is the same message that Senator Bernie Sanders has to the everyday people of this nation, that I welcome the hatred of the elites because I am standing up for you. So cry me a river for the wealthy people in this country.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And that one burned. Cry me a river for the wealthy people in this country. So this guy, and I can't remember his name for the life of me, but I don't know how he keeps a job. And I almost think he keeps a job because he's so full of shit. If that makes sense. It's like, we need somebody who can spew stupid shit on the airwaves. Jason, can you do it? Yeah, he can do it. He can do it. That's our guy. We pay him for this very specific thing. Listen to his prognostication skills.
Bernie Sanders.
Prognostication. This guy's a pundit. He's an expert. He's an expert. Because, A, the argument against Nina Turner didn't entirely make sense to me. He's an oligarch. That's my argument. You need to explain why he's not an oligarch. Why are you telling me about Bernie Sanders? Bernie Sanders is part of the 1% because that's $4 million. Your guy's $50 billion. Your argument doesn't make sense. So, just from that point, you get a quantitative idea on the bullshit this guy spews. Right here. The video that discredits him forever. Chuck Todd, clueless man in the planet, talking to, I guess, the bullshittingest man on the planet.
This seems to, if you were to create the worst possible 3-week period for his presidential campaign, it would be the launch of the person you share the most ideological space with, Elizabeth Warren, and the fact you've had to defend yourself against the perception that your supporters are very anti-woman.
He's done. And I was
really? You think he's done?
I think
wow.
He's done. I was literally having.
Let's stop there for a moment. He's done. I'm a pundit. I'm on MSNBC, bitches. So I know what I'm talking about. I'm sitting here with flagrant liar Brian Williams and time-traveling, homophobic slur Joanne Reed. So we know our shit, yo. Otherwise, we wouldn't have this job. Sanders, done. Listen to how soon Sanders is done. Let's keep going, because the wrongness maxes out to infinity.
This discussion with a good contact of mine who's on the campaign. I was like, I see Bernie Sanders launching his campaign, and by August realizing he won't be in the top 5 in Iowa and dropping out.
It's amazing when you could be that wrong all in like 45 seconds. Isn't it? Like, how do you keep your job? How? How does he keep his job? I am enamored by that prospect that you could be this wrong constantly. In perpetuity, constantly wrong in your assessments and keep your job like that. I'm enamored by that. I don't know how you do that. How? Is it by virtue that you are so wrong that you're able to keep this job? Meaning, we don't need somebody who's going to do actual analysis. We don't need that. We don't need somebody with any level of integrity that's going to tell the truth. We don't need that either. We need a bullshitter. That's what we need. We don't need someone who can spew BS of our perspective and framing of the world. So we hate Sanders. Yes, that's agreed upon. That's understood. So get out here and tell us how Sanders is not going to be there. Now keep in mind, this is not him doing analysis. This is him praying for all intents and purposes, putting his hopes out into the world. And you're wrong. You're wrong. This is the quantity that is you. And so when you're sitting beside Nina Turner, I already have a perspective of you that bullshit is going to be spewed. My perspective wasn't wrong. I was actually right. You can't hold a candle to Miss Turner. I don't even know why they paired you two together. Just because they're black doesn't mean that these two are equal in intelligence. And not so much. All right, let's see. Marcus Will, thanks Marcus Will. Robert Pouquet Ray in Illinois, the billionaire Pritzker, won the governorship through sheer flooding the media. Well, Bloomberg is trying the exact same thing. He's trying the exact same. Like, I don't understand. It's almost as if only Russians can be oligarchs, which is bullshit. Get the fuck out of here. Trudy, show on the Antikythera computer from 200 BC. What? I don't know what that is. Antikythera. Oh, Antikythera. For some reason, that name's familiar, Trudy, but I don't know entirely. Fuck Google. Thank you, fuck Google. The 2020, what is that? Undemocratic National Committee or Convention will be held in Milwaukee, Wisconsin from July 13th to 16th. We must descend on that corrupt convention like antibiotics on an infection. March to the DNC. Hashtag March on the DNC. Thank you, JT. Thank you, fuck Google. And fuck Google indeed. They're putting in stricter policies. So this show, depending on apparently what's said, may get canceled. Corte Yale. Tulsi has been pushing for the Secure Americans Election Act for 2 friggin' years and getting stonewalled by the Democrats. You know how you know that Democrats are serious about Russian hacking? When they don't do shit about Russian hacking. That's how you know they're serious. Meaning not serious at all. That shit's a punchline. McCoy Williams Jr., the look on peace. Oh yeah, when he comes in second, that's going to be amazing. That's going to be absolutely amazing. I'm going to make sure that video is up so I can take a still frame. Kevin McAplin. I think Georgia has slightly more blacks than South Carolina. That's my point. That's why I say he's going to get bullied in Georgia. Robert Pouquet Ray in Illinois is a bit right. Read that one. Oh, right here. Corte Leo, Yale. Stop focusing on the 325,000. That's peanuts. Bloomberg gave Stacey Abrams $5 million for a photo op. $30 million to Oklahoma Democrats. $10 million to Chai Mayoral. $1 million. But that's kind of the point when I'm saying he was paying off for endorsements. Like, if I give you $10 million for your presidential campaign, I don't know, maybe a super PAC or something like that. Are you going to endorse me? Are you? Just, and be honest. I give you $1 million. Are you going to endorse me? Probably yes. Especially if you know that you can get another $1 million next year and next year and next year. It's corruption on its face. Whether it's legal or not, it's still corruption. you are effectively buying endorsements in order to con other people into thinking that this person actually has some genuine affection for you. Yeah, I agree with you, it's peanuts. The reason why we bring up the DNC part is because we're talking about specifically getting him into the debates. He hasn't earned his way into the debates. There's no meritocracy here. This is just him buying his way. That should bug the shit out of each and every person that cares anything about some kind of democratic order. Animaxa, I'm predicting fist fights in Las Vegas on February 22nd. They might be Animaxa. There might be. McCoy Williams Jr. I got blocked from Twitter by always wrong guy Jason Johnson. Yeah, always wrong guy. That's what he calls him. Or woe is what am I to do? I know, right? Always wrong guy. Always wrong guy. Professional wrong guy. Sir Bikes a lot. Onion headline. DNC hires Trump to prevent Bernie. Oh, that's a perfect headline. That is a perfect headline. The guy at work today was like, the Democrats are going to lose to Trump again in 2020 because they can't get their shit together. Yeah. Look at Iowa. One job. Just one job. Couldn't do that right. Cool Blue 71. Time with impeachment. Gallup reports Trump's in job approval 49%. That is enough for re-election. He needs 48% to not lose popular vote by -4. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. All right. And this is going to be the last one because I am dragging ass. I've been up all day, ever since 5 in the morning. The 325,000 is mainly symbolic. Oh, I see. The issue is the DNC rigging. Yes. There's a difference between a Bloomberg and a Steyer in the race and not just two billionaires. Well, it doesn't seem Steyer is doing that. I mean, Steyer is not as rich as Bloomberg. You know, Bloomberg is $50 billion. Steyer, I think, is like 5 or something. But Bloomberg has been giving the money out. Like when I said earlier, the charitable organizations, all of these nonprofits, Bloomberg's money is all over the place. And those people will endorse him, but it's not endorsing him because he's a better candidate, because they think it's better interest. None of that stuff. There's a fiduciary relationship at that point. I mean, it's corruption on its face. I agree with you. I mean, I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you at all. Let's see. You know, they're having a State of the Union watch party at work. But keep in mind, I was up at like 5 this morning. I didn't go to bed till like 2 last night. Kendall Dojo. I'm sorry, God, I'm butchering this name. Dojo? Has there ever been a ridiculous take from mainstream media that warranted firing? Yeah, Brian Williams. Brian Williams got fired for lying. MSNBC hired him, however. So there's that goes to show you the standards of people that they are having on their airwaves. And Brian Williams is still flagrantly horrible. Like, he's horrible. The shit he's been saying in this election campaign. MSNBC has a very clear bias, and I strongly suspect if you fuck up in pursuit of attacking Sanders, they don't care. I don't think they care. Joy Ann Reid, time-traveling hackers, went back into my account and put some homophobic shit in my account. No consequence. No consequence. No consequence. All right, guys. Like, share, subscribe.